Hey everybody. Okay, I'm going to try this on QuickTime and YouTube as opposed to the software that comes from the publisher or the school. I'll see if this works. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to find this in lecture videos or not. I'm hoping you will, or just in the weekly content. This is the first of, I guess, 14 videos. And this week we're talking about the kind of the introduction part of the course. This will be a kind of a lot of the stuff that you talked about in 110 or 101, I guess it is, the introductory course, or for those of you that are transfers in the basic Intro to Criminal Justice course that you took if you were in a crim track. Let's talk about the one thing that you're going to see that the book tries to put together, and that's the idea of linkage blindness. In each agency, I don't care if it's the federal government or if it's any of the state agencies or the municipal agencies or local agencies, all desperately want to protect their data. They don't want other people to have it. So when that happens, you have linkage blindness. It's only been in the past few years that local agencies are starting to share data. And that is, they will have central databases where if I run a guy in my city in a stop, I'll find out if he's been contacted in other agencies. And it really makes sense from a crime fighting standpoint because, say, the suspect vehicle in a crime is a blue. Oh no, it's got to be a black Honda with modified exhaust, but a Hello Kitty sticker on the back window. Well, as long as those details had been captured in another stop and written down on what's known as a field interview card, I can run that, I can search the database for those parameters and perhaps find the suspect vehicle. Perhaps I have a partial license plate. It's a blue Toyota with the first part of the license plate of 5 and then the letter J, California plate. Well, I can run that, and anybody that's been cited in a similar vehicle will show up in any of the citations. And what that does is that potentially limits my suspect pool that I have to fight through and figure out if it's logical if that person or if that person should be looked at as a suspect. So you pull up the citations and say you've got 250, and you go and work through each one and you find 10 that generally match the description. Then you do a little background on each of those people and you find out that one person has been arrested before for similar crimes. Well, that's where sharing data will help to limit problems and help in crime fighting. One of the things that happened in 9/11 was an FBI agent in Arizona, I think it was, or someplace out in the West, had information about one of these guys that was involved in the hijackings. Excuse me, is having been taking flight lessons, and all he wanted to do was learn how to take off. Didn't worry about landing. Wanted to learn how to take off. And the agent wrote a memo and sent it through chain of command, and it got lost. And nobody in Washington or elsewhere looked at the memo, and of course now we know what happened. Very well could have saved thousands of lives, and not put us on a footing to try to prevent future incidents, though. So that's the idea of linkage blindness. The next big topic that I want you to spend some time with is intro information, intro topic. And that's the concept of the idea of social control. And that's going to be your written assignment this week, both informal and formal social control. Just a little couple hints on the written assignment. Make sure you use APA format. I'll have 2 or 3 or 4 that won't have APA format. And I've mentioned it enough times that I'll probably be pretty harsh if you don't use it. If you don't understand it very well, go to Purdue, P-U-R-D-U-E, OWL, O-W-L. It's the Purdue University Online Writing Lab. And they've got a really good set of information about that. Also, the Long Beach Writing Lab up in the liberal arts buildings. Go up there and talk to them. They can help you. If you're in 110 now or you've taken it, you're probably working through APA. So make sure you use APA. Secondly, proofread it. If you're not good at writing, have somebody else look at it. You know, it sounds harsh, and I'll apologize up front, but you're at a university, and I expect, even for a third-year student, you to write like a university student. And I'm going to be pretty harsh on the grading on your, if you are having trouble writing. If you're having trouble writing, and some of you will, you've hated writing, you've never wanted to do it, you've only texted, then go to the writing lab and have them help you, even beyond 110. Because when you come out of the university, one of the things I really want you to have are some decent writing skills that put you above other people, and hopefully put you above people that have 4-year degrees where writing wasn't stressed. Because wherever you're going to go, you're going to have to write. APA format, proofread, have somebody help you with it. And then secondly is think about the topic. Don't use the textbook as a resource. I want you to go outside the textbook. Make sure that you understand the concepts. Very seldom will you see, and then also use those to support your work. Do a little bit of research, understand the topics, and then use that research to support what you write. Otherwise, it's just opinion. And I'll get several papers where there'll be, 1 or 2, somebody will go out and try to find a really good quote that supports what they believe, which isn't the way research should be done. And people take heat over that, where they just look for things that support what they do or what they think is the right answer. That's the biggest problem with even academic research. Academics know what the answer should be, so they go out and limit their scope of their search or disregard anything that is contrary to their opinion. We see a lot of that in society now, where everybody has a right to their opinion as long as it agrees with mine. And I don't want you to be walking through this class thinking that. And I don't want you to walk out of this class thinking that. So, what do we got so far? APA format. Read and write. Make sure it's well written. Think about it. Source it. And make sure that you come to your conclusion. If your first paragraph starts out, I think that formal social control that's not a good paper. You want to do definitions first. Informal social control is this, this, and this. Here's an example of informal social control. Formal social control is this, this, and this. This is an example of formal social control. Gosh, I've written the paper for you. How nice of me. In any event, make sure that you follow those tips. Getting back to the week, what we're doing this week. You're going to see that criminal justice, policing has changed dramatically over the years. There's a huge amount of change, which is usually brought on by some thing that causes a need for change, whether it's violence, whether it's the military being involved. And we're talking, you'll be looking at this when you start looking at William the Conqueror, Alfred the Great in 900-ish, started the idea of the tithings and the families being responsible for crimes committed outside of the family, the hundreds. And that, 900, 100 years later, 70 years later, 170 years, I guess, William the Conqueror comes along and makes some big changes because that old system lacked the ability to protect the country in the case of invasion. Ergo, William the Conqueror comes in and invades and takes over a good portion of England, and the Saxons then become established. But this works all the way through policing, and you'll see it, and that's one of the core themes, is that some shortfall of policing leads to another era. As you go through the idea of formal and informal social control, understand that the criminal justice system is a core part of one of those two. And it should be fairly easy for you to figure out, but I'm going to let you ponder that and make sure that you know that, and you understand why it's considered one way or the other. As we move through that, I'm not going to go a lot into formal, informal social control just because we see it. You're going to be writing on it. Sorry, we're writing on it. One of the major concepts of a policing course is the idea of the culture of lawfulness. For the most part, very few people would go out and hurt people, or victimize other people. They wouldn't do it. And that's a culture of lawfulness. Without it, the police would not be able to control the populace. I mean, look what happens when you have a riot. The police show up, and then they have to put more and more and more resources. It may go to the state to bring in their resources, and people that are involved in a riot, are not part of that culture of lawfulness at that period of time. They may be, later, and maybe were before, but they now have some sort of a cause célèbre to riot about, and that disruption is what really hurts the ability of the police to deal with a crime. The next topic that's really important is the idea of the rule of law. And there's a definition in the book and in the PowerPoint, which I gotta tell you, I just hate. Because one of the things is they say the rules apply equal to everyone. Well, do we really think that? Do we really think that everybody has the rules applied to them as everybody else? And I'm not so sure that we agree with that. I think we have other thoughts about that. So with that being said, when you look at the rule of law, I will post an alternative rule of law on the content section, and just a statement, and look at those two and try to understand and figure out what the one that I post, what it means, what it's alluding to. Because the rule of law that's in the book, and you see it in a lot of different research, or a lot of, when you go and you look on the internet, is pretty similar. But I think the rule of law, when you look at the application, there's a lot of things that are similar between the two, but I think the one that I post is a better approach to it. Discretion is one of the things we're going to talk about. And, when we talk about the cops got tons of discretion, and they can make good choices or bad choices. I prefer to think of discretion as being choosing between lawful choices. I also prefer to think of when an officer chooses an unlawful choice, that's misconduct. Discretion is just choosing between lawful choices. Misconduct is between unlawful choices. And we will talk a little bit about, in this course, and if you also take 301, we talk quite a bit about it, the idea of the due process model and crime control model of the criminal justice system. And the due process model focuses on the rights of the accused, rights of individual to make sure that the government is not taking away freedom after each of the processes have been tested. Meaning, the police. Did the police honor Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights and some of the Sixth Amendment rights? Did the government and the court system honor the Sixth Amendment rights? And that's it doesn't mean now, and kind of get an all or nothing argument here. You know, it really isn't an all or nothing argument because the police, you know, generally abide by the Constitution. Not generally, but on a broad basis. And most officers have a good concept of what they can and can't do. They may not understand why they can or can't, but they understand what they can and can't do. Officers often will push that, what they can and can't do. Sometimes they'll make incorrect choices, not understand the law. But generally, you don't see a rampant trampling of individual rights at any point in the process. Crime control model emphasizes these. What happens before trial. One of the ideas in the crime control model is, why should we go to trial if we have somebody who is guilty? As most defendants are guilty. And actually, it's a vast majority of defendants are factually guilty, which brings us to the concept of factually guilty and legal guilt. Factual guilt and legal guilt. Factual guilt means that they did it. They're guilty. Legal guilt means that the police can prove it. They can prove guilt or innocence. So take a good look at crime control and due process. You'll see it again in the form of maybe some stuff on the midterm or the first exam. So make sure you do. With those models, you can look a bit at the police in that, and are we at a good balance, between crime control and due process? I don't know. Perhaps. I think maybe we're doing some things right, with it. So a lot of discussion in this chapter, in the intro chapter, about the different levels of law enforcement. Easily put, you have federal law enforcement. Federal agents can enforce federal law only. So an FBI agent that walks into a liquor store and sees somebody shoplift cannot make an arrest under governmental authority for the shoplift. Meaning he can't say, I'm an FBI agent and you're under arrest. And he can say that, but it doesn't hold any force of law. He can make a private person's arrest for that violation, but he can't use his authority. Now, when we go to the federal side, state officers have no authority to make state arrests or federal arrests. State officers have no authority to make federal arrests. So let's say the police go out to a bank robbery and they catch the guy. My favorite bank robbery story is a woman walks into a bank and writes a note, says that she demands $10,000. Well, the only problem is that she writes the note on her deposit slip. I know, but this really happened. They hit the robbery alarm and the process starts. Cops get there first, as they always do. FBI gets sent and cops get sent. Cops get there, go out to the house, find the woman, end up arresting the woman. Well, the FBI, it's one bank robbery, so the FBI doesn't really want anything to do with it. So they turn that, they don't get involved in the case. Police make an arrest, but they make an arrest under the state statute of armed robbery. In California, it's 211 PC. And the case is then prosecuted that way. Because of that, the FBI doesn't take the arrestee. but the arrest isn't made for 18 to 11, or I'm sorry, 18 to 13, 2113. Sorry, it's 18 USC 2113, armed robbery. They don't make the arrest for that. They make it for the California statute. Now, you have the federal agencies, and you have a ton of them. There's a whole bunch of agencies with police powers, all the way from FBI, the big ones, the alphabet soup, FBI, DEA, and go on. Those agencies. And then there's a whole bunch of other agencies, FDA, Food and Drug Administration. Some of their people have police powers. Just tons and tons. So there's several thousand federal law officers that all enforce their particular segment of the law. Now we get to the state level. Each state has a Department of Justice or a similar thing that may be a different name. And in DOJ, you have the prosecutorial side, the state prosecutors that may be involved in state level investigations for certain things. But in DOJ, you maybe have a B&E in California, Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement. You have alcohol, tobacco, or no, sorry, you have ABC, alcohol beverage control. You have several other state agencies that have police powers in the state, but they usually have a fairly narrow grasp or slice of what they're working on. Then move down to the county level, and you have the county sheriff. And according to the California Constitution, or by power of the California Constitution, each county has the responsibility of a sheriff's department and a court system. The smallest county is San Francisco County. San Francisco is unique. There is the city and county of San Francisco. So you have city police, and then you have the county sheriffs, or maybe it's marshals, that deal with the court system. Kind of an interesting setup. And then they deal also with county buildings and private providing security and that. But they have police powers also. Move down here to LA County, in Orange County. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. Some of the schools, the school districts have their own police departments. There was a county police, LA County Police, and I think they've been absorbed. But that was several years ago. At one time, my sister was the chief of that, or the administrative leader of that, whatever they called her position. So you have the county sheriffs, which we know mostly, and the county sheriffs in all 58 counties run the jail in that county. Orange County has merged the marshal's office, which used to handle courts, and with the sheriff's department, they now, the sheriffs run the courts, provide security and such for the courts, as well as law enforcement in unincorporated areas. Now, I went from living in a city where you frequently saw police cars as you were driving around in the city, going here or there. Maybe not so much in the residential areas. I've moved out to the country, and I'm in a place now where, I may see highway patrol on the major thoroughfares, once in a while, once every few days or weeks. But I've never seen a police car where I live, in the area that I live. And it's not even a community, it's much more rural than that. So local agencies, the vast number. Now, here's a key for you. Local agencies, have less than 15, make sure you know that, less than 15 officers throughout the country. Southern California, we have big agencies. I think our smallest agency maybe has 50 officers. Maybe less than that, maybe 30. That might be La Palma, with very, very small town. But everybody else, you have bigger and bigger. Some agencies have over a couple hundred at the city level, not to mention several thousand like LAPD. So those are the things that you see with the municipal agencies. That, and I guess we should get into the other issue that I wanted to talk about with this, is politics. And we'll start at the bottom. A chief, generally a police chief in a city, is not an elected official, but he serves at the leisure of the city manager, who then serves at the leisure of the city council. Council gets mad at the police chief, puts pressure on the city manager, and the police chief gets fired. So it's good for a police chief to back the policies and policy direction of the city manager and the city council. Years and years ago, maybe 30 years ago, immigration was another topic, another hot topic. And City of Irvine had a council which was very much about more global issues than just local. And they very well may have come up with, or at least talked frequently about, the think globally, act locally approach. Well, at the time, the council forbid police department from assisting customs or border patrol. And border patrol would get in pursuits, and they'd drive through the city. And if the people crashed or they ran away, we were restricted from helping them. And it would put a lot of load on the supervisors to deal with that problem. A political issue. Had the chief of police said, no, we're going to help border patrol, well, the chief would have been looking for a new job. He would have had a problem because he didn't follow politics. You go to the county sheriff. County sheriff is an elected official. He's a politician, or she is a politician. And they stay in power by getting votes. And when opposition is able to get enough votes, they get voted out of their position. So sheriff's departments can be very political, and that may go all the way down to the patrol or investigation level as to how particular people are treated. We'll go back to the city of Irvine, and then for a political issue, is one night. Maybe it's probably close to 40 years ago now. Yeesh. I'm dating myself. I want no comments or vicious emails from any of you. In any event, the mayor and his wife went out drinking at a local watering hole, came home, they had an argument, so the mayor pulls out a gun and shoots his wife in the head. It just grazes her, doesn't enter the skull, but nonetheless, he cranks her round off and almost shoots her in the head. So instead of calling the police, he calls the chief of police. Chief of police comes out, and the chief of police is a politician. It's been years and years since he's even really looked at a police car. So he calls out one of his subordinates, and that subordinate comes out and seizes the gun. Wife goes off to the hospital, and the mayor's never arrested. And then the gun gets compromised, all kinds of bad things happen. But that was a result of political pressure. And that can be at any level of the county sheriff, also at any level of the local agencies. But now the thing is that we look at the federal agencies, and we kind of think that they're immune from some of this. Wow, start following the FBI and all of the things that are going on with the 2016 election. And it sure looked like the FBI was up to their ears in the political process. You know, the good news is it was probably at the lowest echelon, or the highest echelon, and the day-to-day agents weren't affected by it. You know, and hopefully not, but maybe they were. You know, you don't know. But the political process is very much intertwined the in policing, and at times it goes to the extent of being corrupt. Um, and when that happens, then you know, you hearken back to what we will find out is the political era of policing, and then we can make some judgments as to where we sit. So I'm not going to go into the rest of the agencies. That's all done in the book. If you're thinking about the feds, go to whatever agency's website, look at their MQs, minimum qualifications, and then multiply that by 10, and you'll have an idea what your competition is. The FBI is a great example. Several people have expressed interest in the FBI as a place to go, and it's pretty tough. It's a really difficult place to get a job. So start early. You know, you're in third year. You can start planning your career out. I mentioned in the bios that a former student, really good girl, very, very bright, graduated, went to Michigan State Law, got her law degree, decided she didn't want to deal with the bar. But the whole time she was in Michigan State, she was really thinking about the FBI, having that law degree to give her the hook to get in. She did a bunch of great internships with agencies, had a great reputation, but it still took her a long time, a couple of years, to get into a process, through a process, and eventually hired. Haven't talked to her since, but, or not since, but I haven't talked to her since she got out of the academy. So I'm sure she's busy, but I'll have to renew that and see how she's doing. In any event, sorry this has gone so long. I will, it's almost as good as a lecture. I will see y'all in class, and good luck with the written assignment.